Welcome back to the Echo Before the Applause, where we dive into the lives, processes, and projects of today's composers.
We're not just talking about finished projects, we're talking about the messy drafts, the late nights, the doubts, and the breakthroughs.
Today we have Cameron Rodgers Johnson, a UAB alumni. He is currently getting his master's degree in composition. Let's start super easy. How long has it been since you've been making music? And what's your main instrument to play?
So my primary instrument is trumpet, and I started my journey with that instrument. I think fifth grade is when we did instrument testing, and that's where I found my way to ending up with the brass demon that is the trumpet. And then ever since then, that's where it kind of blossomed, or our music journey blossomed from there.
Okay. Tell us a fun fact about yourself.
This is a very general one that I go for. It has nothing to do with music, but I had braces for almost 7 years of my life, from the time I was in first grade all the way up until the beginning of seventh grade, which is not normal.
That is a long time.
Yes, it's a very long time.
That's an impressively long time.
Would not recommend. / I'm glad my teeth came out the way they did now, but that was it was a little bit rough there for a few years.
Oh my gosh, I could not imagine myself having and playing trumpet too.
Yeah, that was the main thing.
Like for oboe, having braces, like it was okay, but like having a trumpet, when I played trombone, I didn't have any braces. I'm so glad I didn't, but I could just imagine trumpet being extremely difficult.
Yeah,
to play.
brass instruments and braces do not go hand in hand. Thankfully now with the revolution of Invisalign, it's gotten a lot easier for kids, but back then it was rough.
Yeah, I remember here singing at elementary school. We also did instrument testing. Was it so they did it early for you as well, like fifth grade?
I'd say from my experience, that's for at least the area that growing up in Hoover, that seemed to be the norm of like fifth and sixth grade, at least going into like your first year of what would have been middle school. That would have been normal. For us, it was a little bit broken because my time, or at the time, the school system I was in, they had an intermediate school, which was only fifth and sixth grade placed there. So that's technically where you started beginning band instead of starting it in sixth grade at the middle school. So it was a little bit broken up. So that's why we did it in fifth grade instead of sixth, which I feel is mostly the norm.
Oh, okay. Because when you said fifth grade, I was just thinking, wait, so that's pretty early. So I'm not the only one who started early, because I did instrument testing in fourth grade.
Okay, well, that's earlier, yeah.
Yeah, and put on clarinet, even though they put us on, we did recorder in third grade. So that was like my gateway, the gateway into woodwinds.
Yeah.
So yeah, where did you start doing composition?
So with me, my composition journey, I guess, formally didn't really start until my middle of my sophomore, so beginning of my junior year at UAB. But I've always had like a side interest in the topic. I remember growing up, or especially in high school, after I think it was my junior year when I finished a good bit of my required classes, I decided, I was like, you know what, I like this music thing. Not sure if it's something I want to like pursue long term, but I'm really interested in it. So I think I'm pretty decent taking naturally to it. So I decided, why not take AP Music Theory? Why not? Let's see what happens. So as part of that class, my instructor, which was one of our band directors, Miss Sally Vines White, she had us analyze a composition. So she had us analyze a composition as part of the class, and then she said, I'll give you the option of making your own as part of one of our final projects. So when I did that, I was like, like the whole process of doing it like just really enamored me. So I was like, this is really interesting. At the time, so coming away from it, the piece, I went back on it sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, you had no idea what the heck you were getting to, so that's what you were doing, because I didn't know what transposition was, especially, and that was funny to find out. But yeah, so I guess that would have been like my first miniature exposure to where it like implanted something in my brain, being like, hey, this might be something you might want to look into later. But it didn't really like, that spark didn't really click until I'd say my sophomore and junior year at UAB, when I decided, let's reopen this can of worms. I just finished I was at the back end of the theory cycle as a music major, so doing theory 3 and theory 4. So I was into the more advanced stuff at that point. So I was like, let me see if I can now take my more garnered knowledge of all of the stuff that comes with music degree, and if I can apply it to make my compositions a little bit more refined than what they would have been in high school. And then that resulted in my first fully thought out wind band piece, which Title is escaping me at this point, but I know it's on my list to reorchestrate it, so I should remember that later. But yeah, and then that's it. That was my middle of my sophomore, middle of my sophomore year, and then I guess the rest is history since then. And now I find myself getting a master's degree in it. So,
looking at your social media pages, I follow you on Instagram and all that stuff. Go check his Instagram out. I noticed something when I was looking at it. You're actually starting to sell music, correct? And how did you get into that process of selling your compositions?
Publishing. It's a really, as a composer, such a arranger, it's a really important conversation that I feel like not enough students, especially younger students, get taught how to navigate that world, because now especially to give you a very, very, very brief history overview, how the field of composition worked is that you would typically, historically speaking, composers would write their music and then they would send it off to these big publishing houses, who would then take their compositions, edit them, and make them marketable, such ready for print, to then send off to whoever they need to send off to. So in this case, if I was writing a band composition, I would write the score, send it off to the publisher. They would edit everything, get all the parts and the score proofread and ready everything, and then send it off to band programs. So then they would buy it through there. Now, or at least from what I've seen in my experience coming up now, a lot of composers are doing self-publishing, to where they are their own editors, they're their own publishers, they're doing everything themselves. So with that, how I came about getting my way into the publishing field, such navigating how I wanted to handle things. I knew long term I wanted to keep it for the control of having how I wanted my music to look, and how I wanted it to be advertised in my control for as long as I could possibly have. So, and by saying with that, if you go with say a major publisher, often enough they're gonna have more of a dictating say on what type of things you might put, such say the length or the grade level that you might subscribe to writing for. I knew I didn't want to put myself in that box, especially early on. Later on, it might be a different conversation, because one of the bigger pros to having a publisher is that if you have a major one, they'll advertise your music, and it'll be seen by a large more majority of people than if you were to self-publish. But the caveat of that is they're going to take a cut of whatever sales you make. So it's a trade-off, and sometimes that cut is upwards of like 30-40%, and it's like, okay, as a composer, do you want to be giving away stuff that is inherently your creative work, and saying, hey, I'll let you make tens of thousands of dollars off of something that I poured my life energy into. I can see justification for both sides, but at this given point in my career right now, I've decided to stick with self-publishing. But to finally answer your question, how it came about to getting myself more published now is that there is there's an upcoming such a really prominent now publishing company run by Sean Murphy. He was, I think still is, one of the music industry professors at Baldwin College. He and as I say, he started his own publishing company, Murphy Music Press, I think 5 to 10 within the last 5 to 10 years, and it's really taken off. So he's been known for curating and taking on a lot of new and upcoming composers and publicizing their stuff. So I remember after I finished one of my wind band pieces by I think it was my junior year, he messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, once you get all of like the editing process and get it happy to where you are with the scoring the parts, send it off, and we'll talk about getting it published. So that summer, so after the premiere, which I think was in April, I got all of the edits and comments back from the conductor. I went back, edited the score and the parts, and fixed everything up, and then I think that piece was published June or July of that summer. So, and ever since then, that partnership between me and him has stayed pretty strong, and now he publishes most of my wind band, or all of my wind band stuff, and then most of the chamber stuff. I'm starting to get him plugged into it as well. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was really interested about that, because I was like, well, they don't really in the music tech degree, they don't really teach you how to get your stuff published unless they change that, Dorian.
Yeah. The gap, I guess the gap from when you were working on your degree versus mine, has changed a little bit from what you told me because we had a big conversation about copyright. I mean, a huge conversation about that.
Yeah.
That I took basically, I wrote as fast as I could and basically wrote down the whole presentation. That's all it was at that point. It's chicken scratch, but it's everything I need to know. And I'm just like, you know what? Just write everything down. So, yeah. And then now Dolby Atmos, we're starting to get touching that more a little bit. I haven't been in the studio for a while, and I hate that. But things happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll be touching publishing as well in a convocation and a direct convocation from tech majors. I don't know. I'll talk to one of the professors about it, see if we want to talk about it or not.
Feel like they should, because I mean, from what I remember, I think that we touched a little bit about it, but that was, a long time ago, and I don't remember any of it. So I was like really interested in, because I was like, oh wow, you got your stuff like actually on a website. I didn't know if you had like made the website, because originally I have a website, and I was thinking of actually just publishing it on the website and just having it for sale for anyone to like get to it and download it if they wanted it. Especially a lot of my oboe trios works and stuff like that. Since I'll be that's I haven't worked on it yet, but there's supposed to be a world premiere at the oboe intensive camp with those. So having those available and online would be nice.
Yeah, and I'll say, and to tangent off of that, that essentially is what the craft of self-publishing stuff is. You just put things on like your website or your social media and say, hey, I have this is for sale, buy it if you want X, Y, and that's how you go from there. And then connecting it back to what I was saying, like the advantage of having like an outside publisher or distributor, you get the advertising base of their whole community that follows them, or all of the directors, music directors that follow that brand or like trust them as a publisher. You get the audience that carries with them. So it's a double-edged sword. As I've gotten older, I've like watched the field evolve. Most composers that I know, they either self-publish and have like select people or select individuals and companies who distribute their music, or they just split their hedges with the bigger houses like Alfred Music Press, Hal Leonard, JW Pepper, like sites like those and publishers like those. So it's kind of you're hedging your bets because like I said, it's like every time you sign off on saying yes you might post my music, they're gonna take a cut of it. And I say I have a contract with Murphy Music Press, but the split such a percentage that their company takes, and from my experience with talking with other composers, it's drastically less than what any other major publishing company touches. So just the deal that we get is amazing. So I'm really thankful and grateful for Sean for looking out for especially young and upcoming composers, because money is hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I started the podcast, because I wanted to get people who were up-and-coming composers who were young and wanted to get their 2 cents on the whole thing. Yeah. Especially since, like, I don't know what my rates are. I was asked someone to write compositions, and they're like, what's your rate? And I'm like, you look online, it's like a minute for $100. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't think I should start there.
Yeah, it's and I every time I get asked that question, I always my immediate follow up is almost always, what's your budget? so that's what are you willing to pay? Which I can hear the older composers being like, you should know your worth, don't do that. But it's like, also I can't do that.
I mean, for me, it's like I'm starting out, so it's like, I gotta start at a reasonable price. Like for me, I said, okay, well, 5-minute piece is gonna be like $15. That's kind of what I'm going for. But currently, I think I was slashing that down because she wanted 3-minute pieces, so I was thinking more like $5 or something. But it it's hers. It's completely
and I said I've gotten in the, or I probably should hedge saying this publicly. depending upon who the person is, such the organization that I'm working with, whether it be like a friend who's a band director or like some personal connection that I make, I'm going to slightly alter what I'm going to, at least right now, I slightly alter the price of what I'm going to charge depending upon the situation. Now, I can firmly say it will not stay that way forever. So especially post-master's degree, it's like, okay, I have 2 music degrees. You're going to pay me respectfully. So I need to keep the lights on. So I got to live.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. What were you going to say, Dorian?
Yeah, you said like $5 for how many pieces is it?
Oh, she's doing, I think we're talking about 5 or 4.
Dollars per piece?
Yeah, it's a come and go situation. There's a lot of, we haven't really discussed the price. We've been iffy. I've been fighting her. I'm like, I don't really want you to pay for it. But she's like, she's one of those people who are like, I have to. So I'm like, okay, well, I was planning on doing 5-minute pieces originally for $5. So it's a minute, a dollar or whatever.
Oh, 5 1-minute pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
so like
different.
$5 for 5 minutes. For $1 a piece. I don't know. I'm still going back and forth because it's like the rate of what to charge is hard. And on top of that, she's asking me to do 5 of them by June 1st. And then you got to take into consideration of other alternate parts. So she would like, if there's like, let's say 3 oboes, she wants an alternate part for an English horn part. So so then there's like the extra piece I have to add. So it's not just like, oh, you're writing trios, quartets, and do stuff like that.
I think you definitely, and I say, and you can take my opinion and completely throw it out. I think you're comfortably at the point where you can respectfully say, "Hey, how about $100?"
Yeah,
I was the one
encompassing all of them, not just per part. No, that like $100 set rate for all pieces. That means each one is a certain amount. Mainly because this is time consuming. It's April now, and you have until June 1st. That is some time consuming music that you can make.
Yeah, I don't want it to be 100.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't want to blow it. I'll discuss it with her because she's like,
yeah.
Oh, it's an oboe intensive camp, so they're already kind of low, and I'm trying to work with it so that I can get some things premiered and published. So like, there's the background of like, I've never been paid to do this before, so what do I do? And then like seeing your compositions, and I'm like, oh, because like I think one of them goes for like $15. Right? Or did I see it wrong? I have no idea. It's been
Depends upon which one you're talking about. Because one of them, and again, talking about Murphy Music Press, how he does things is he'll sell the score and the parts for one price and then just the score for another. So you're probably thinking of one of them is one of the scores I know is just like it's just $15 because that makes reasonable sense. If you're just gonna buy the score, it doesn't have to be breaking arm and a leg. If you're gonna buy the whole thing, it's like okay, that's I gotta charge you fairly for that.
I see. Okay, I completely okay.
Yeah, so it's like if first person comes to mind, if you take example a John Mackey piece. Most of just his scores cost anywhere from I think roughly $50 to maybe 100, 120, 125 if you're just gonna buy the score. If you're gonna get the parts, that's where you're gonna get into the region of like, okay, this is gonna be $150, $200 because you're buying the whole set and you're intending on performing it at that point. So.
Okay, all right, I can see what you're saying now. Okay.
With things like that, does that also include the fact of those original papers where it's like the parts are connected to each other? With those really long sheets that are like a different color than actual printed paper, you have to photocopy them.
Okay, yeah. Now we're getting to a conversation about distribution.
My bad.
No, that's fine because they're more connected than people realize. So that's why like that percentage cut exists because a publishing / distribution house they have to print the music and get it boxed up and sold out to whoever buys it. So that's why it's more difficult. That's why when you're dealing with people who self-publish, it's a little bit more tedious of a process because say for example, I don't have an industrial size printer in my apartment.
Yeah.
So I can't just go print things on very expensive archival paper and then get it shipped out. That costs a lot of money and a lot of time also. So it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time and money, but also a completely different experience level field wise of being like, oh, there's certain parameters that you have to adhere to when you're dealing with folding pages and like making sure all the parts look a certain way. So that's why that whole game is completely different. So I guess to connect this back to self-publishing, like with what you're doing on your website, that's fine, because at the end of the day, what you're going to end up doing for most of your pieces, such what I will eventually do when my website is finished, in progress right now, is when say you buy one of my chamber pieces, it's just gonna get you a download link to the score and the parts that you can just print on regular paper. You don't you don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about A, sending you something, or B, like you having to print it on special type of paper. It's just gonna be regular letter copy paper. So that's a little bit different. So that's where the price fluctuation you can start to the price fluctuation change depending upon what actually you're getting when you buy something.
Okay, yeah. Because I remember Dr. Phillips touching about that the score and having it to be, like those big giant pieces of paper. And he's like, I had to go to FedEx and get the printed out there and like get the little rolly things and attach the papers to it. And he wasn't complaining. He was just saying how it was back in the day.
But whenever I submitted my pieces to the I'm blanking on the competition name, and now it's shimmy escaping me. The AMA Young Composers competition. Whenever I send out pieces for that, since they still require like two hand copies of the score, at least when I submit it for it, I'd have to go either to UPS or FedEx and be like, "Hey, can you bind this? Can you print this and bind this?" and it's always a very interesting request, because they're like, why do you want this on 11 by 17 paper? I'm like, listen, just do it, please.
Just do it. Just do it, please. I'm asking you to do something. Just do it.
Yeah, that reminds me of a score that the printer was down to go to FedEx, printer was down, and not only that, just to try to get it done, it was way out of my budget range, so it was for a visual score competition for LSU.
Yeah.
I did not even get a reply that they got the score back. I just turned it in, so maybe it was just LSU only, even though the flyer on campus said it was for LSU, Peabody, and UAB students. It was open for that.
What was the competition?
It was like visual score competition that happened.
The graphic score competition.
Yeah, graphic.
Okay. Yeah. That's I have no like concrete information. That's run through an entirely separate organization that's not connected to the comp department. So don't blame it on us.
Oh no, you're good. I'm not mad about that.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that going to FedEx, try to get my draft reprinted, so they can try to shrink it to 11 by 17, because my original draft was on a large sketchbook sheet of paper, because this was my first time doing a graphic score.
Yeah.
It's a really big sine wave. 10 pages has a sine wave.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm glad I don't bring it with me.
I need to see it. You keep talking about it, and I'm like, where is this thing? I want to see it. Because the sine wave, man, I want to see a sine wave.
Do you want the digital or the physical version?
Oh, I don't care. Whichever one you're willing to let me see.
I have a digital version, because it's all with me right now. The physical one's actually rolled up under my piano in my room. Rolled up. Anyway.
Yeah.
The price was like $40, almost $50, and the printer was already broken. So my mom and I, we were just like, she was like, how about I just redraw it and help you with it? So we literally hand redrew the whole thing in one night, and I scanned it in and turned it in. Okay. My email next day, and didn't hear nothing about it. I was just like,
but hey,
you did
it. You did it. You did it. Like I submitted a composition for a competition. I love saying those two words together. Anyway, I submitted a composition for a competition, and I didn't hear anything back for them. I think they're still doing like compositions which is weird, because they said they ended in March or something at the beginning of March, but it doesn't matter to me. No. I'm just waiting for a reply. If they have, if I get in, I get in.
That reminds me, if the call for scores for Bama, that I'm in that organization, if they're still open, because they sent emails saying something about fees, dues and fees, and my name was on the list, and I sent the organizer an email saying, hey, here's the receipt I paid in January. I don't know what this list is about, because you were kind of vague, but just let you know, I already paid it, and I turned in my file to the professor here, who is also over taking in the call for score applications. He has the file, and I already turned it in, so I don't know what my name is on the list. It was kind of a slightly vague email, so I'm just like, do I need to still work on that piece or not? Because it's on the back burner really heavily right now. I'm just like,
I have an interesting opinion about call for scores and competitions that's changed ever since I got to LSU, because my professors have very strong opinions about it, and they have drastically different opinions about how they should be done.
Got Emily Zhang's opinions on competitions.
Yeah.
So why don't you share yours and your professors? What's the opinions on it? Do you hate them? Do you love them? Are they great? Is it the middle ground? Is it
Improvements?
It's for me. It's a firm middle ground that swings back and forth on a weekly basis. I'm of the opinion, such at least right now, this I can see this changing throughout my career. But my opinion is connected to my overarching such a larger belief that I don't think art and competition should inherently ever be connected, because art should exist for art's sake. And that's what music that's what competition is. It is a art form, and if you start bringing competition into the factor, you are inherently tainting what is the original purpose of it. I get why it exists, and I get the whole idea of why they have to happen to some accord, but I always like that's now like a firm part of what I have in my art, just in my brain. Whenever I submit something for a competition, so I call for scores, I'm like, hey, this is someone else's opinion of my work. This is their judgment of it. It has nothing to do with me as a person or the merit of the saying the merits of my music. But I do see like the firm, in some cases the educational and like the tangible benefits of doing them such their payoffs in the end. My professors, such this is one thing that they both firmly agree on. If a competition has a fee, they almost always tell us do not apply, because they both of them firmly believe that any competition that has some type of fee requirement attached to it, such they get why you have to have like a fee attached. It's like we live in a world that in some accord revolves around money, so people have to get paid, and that's perfectly fair and justifiable. But if you're getting into the region where you have to pay upwards of like $25, $30, $50+ to just submit your music to be judged, in a sake of it's like you have to weigh a cost benefit analysis of like, this is money that you're potentially never going to potentially see again. So you're sending money for your piece to be judged in a manner of which I hope I win. What's the payoff of winning in the end? Is the cost the way off worth it? That's something that on a case by case basis you can maybe weigh, but in most situations they're like don't bother. Find some. There's plenty of free competitions out there. So free call for scores that exist. Just seek those out. There's a fee attached. Again, weigh it case by case basis, but yeah.
Okay.
And then there was another point that I was going to make it that I just now. It just slipped my brain. So yeah, go ahead. Maybe I'll come back to
I was gonna say the one I submit was a fee. I had to pay $25. And I wasn't really upset about it, to be honest.
Sure.
Because you win a cash prize. So like
Sure.
for okay, I'm gonna get into my video game era here.
Okay.
Video game Sarah here. Whenever you do a competition for like, I don't know, Omega Strikers, a dead and dying game, right? They do these like events and you have to pay usually like $25, but that's because you get a reward at the end and you get to like play in these and go up against a lot of people.
Yeah.
So my like viewpoint on having to pay, if you're not getting a reward at the end, that kind of is like So the one I submitted it to was, if you win second, first, or third, you do get a nice reward, and you get a recording of the live performance, your hotels, your trip, your plane, everything is comped for you to go there several times and be with the group. So like for me, that's kind of worth paying $25 if you win. Sure. If you don't, it's $25 gone. So but yeah, I don't really have a problem paying with a fee. If it's like $100, I might not do it. Yeah. That seems a little bit outrageous. And yeah, art should just exist for art. But I can understand like going to competitions, getting feedback from judges if they have that option. Yeah. And doing free ones is definitely a yes. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? There's no entry barrier problem. The only thing I have is like, if you enter some of the free ones, you might not get anything back or hear anything back. Yeah, sure. So,
wait, most competitions. I'm not saying all of them do this or most, but like they usually give you feedback. In my experience, some do, some don't. Some I've on many occasions gotten the email of we're sorry you were not selected, and due to the size of the applicant pool, we will not be offering feedback at this time. And I'm like, okay, moving on. So you're going in the rejection file that I keep. It usually says it in the list of like qualifications if they give you feedback or anything like that. Most of the time they're pretty upfront about it. Yeah, they're pretty much upfront about it. Okay, because in my time, including the LSU thing I did. One, didn't hear back with them again. I'm not dissing that. I'm really not. I'm just glad I finished it near the end year in December. But I've done like 3 composition competitions. The first one, my very first one was in 6th grade. I did not know what I was doing yet for the school system here in this town.
Yeah.
I somehow got 3rd place, a bronze medal out of it.
Yeah.
No feedback there. And I was like, okay, question mark, yay. And then, not ungrateful about it. It was just more of, now looking back, I'm like, feedback would have been nice a little bit, but now I'm getting, I've been kind of self-teaching myself composition since 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other 2, one was with Bama again, which was one, I considered that piece one of my first ones, because the other one from 6th grade, I lost it. I don't know where that file is. It's probably a deleted account now. So it's in the ether somewhere.
Yeah.
And there was one a year later. It was like a national one.
Yeah.
For made for women in composition. Mm-hmm. And it was for I was supposed to make a string quartet. I don't remember the requirements. I just know I did it, and none of them gave me feedback. So I'm surprised that some do and some don't, because I'm just so used to getting none.
Yeah.
Just crickets. I'm just like, okay.
I feel like it's a toss.
Yeah.
You know,
it really depends on like the organization and what stance they're coming at it from, / also the number of applications they might receive, because they could be expecting a small applicant pool, and then suddenly they get like upwards of 1,000, and it's like, okay, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, like,
this is a lot.
There's only barely any competitions out here. I mean, there's probably a ton that I don't know about, but I use like
a forum.
I don't remember what the forum is called.
Like a composer's forum.
The composer forum something.
Yeah, I still have the page still open.
I mean, I can pull it up, but I mean, I just use it to see what's there, and then like compose for whatever. But to get back to you, we've talked about a lot of this stuff you're doing currently now.
Sure.
But I want to know something about your journey that most people wouldn't expect with your music journey.
You speaking music in general or specific? Okay.
What's something about your journey that most people wouldn't expect as like a musician or a composer?
I guess we can take it all the way back to near the very beginning, when I nearly quit band, which would have, if I had done that, probably stopped me in music altogether. So I think this was 7th grade. I'm sitting in seventh grade band. And the way we did it at my middle school was there's 3 concert bands: concert band 2, concert band 1, and then symphonic band. And then coming up from, at the time, the intermediate school, you would audition in, and then be placed in one of the 3, and then that would be your class period for the year. So which was not uncommon, but at the time I, as any middle school child does, you take everything at very face value, because that's all you have the perspective to see. Got placed in the lowest concert band, and was, my spirit completely crushed for the entire year. / being in that environment with my classmates, it was evidently clear for me from like day 1 onwards, or for that school year, that most of the students in that class did not want to be there. So they could care less about being a band. Most of them were like, this is just something that my parents told me to do, or I'm just here because there's nothing else better for me to do, I guess. So that was the vibe from the get-go, and that's how I pretty much stayed for the entire year. And as a very young and impressionable middle school child, that started to like creep in and be implanted in my head of like, hey, is this all I can amount to? Is this all that is this all that I'm ever going to worth with this piece of metal in my hand, which was the trumpet at the time. And I was like, because and it's become more and more true as I've gotten older, but I wasn't. So for me, how I take the things is, I'm going to give, now it became more apparent just true after this incident, but I'm very much so. I like to give my best, slash my all, at whatever I'm doing. So being in that environment, around people who are like who it was evident that they did not care, so they didn't want to be there. So I found myself asking myself regularly that for that whole year, being like, if this is all that, if this is the peak for me, then I don't think I can do this. Because I don't think this is really for me. And I distinctly remember going home one afternoon and like going up to my mom. It was like, I think I'm gonna quit because I'm not really vibing with this. Slash, everyone around me doesn't care. If this is all it's gonna be worth to me. I don't think I don't think this music thing isn't gonna work out for me. Mm-hmm. She looked at me and said, "So you're telling me that you're just going to quit at something because it's hard?" and I vividly remember, like, those are the exact words that she said, and I was like, "Huh, I guess you're right." Went home that night, practiced. The next year, moved up, skipped a whole band, went up to the second chair in symphonic band. To my now dear friend Eric, who is off doing fun science stuff, but love that dude. But set second chair in the highest band in the middle school, and then the rest of the story, my story with music has been that way since. I've never touted myself as like the best musician, slash the best trumpet player that's been gifted to the brass family, but I have always touted myself, especially with music, is that I'm going to give. And I guess it's blossomed into the way I handle everything. I'm going to give you my best effort, so I'm going to put my whole heart and soul into it, because I have a firm belief that if even if you're not necessarily naturally talented to be the best at it, if you care about something and you want to be good at it, you can get to a point to where you are comfortable / happy with it. It might take longer, and it might be a drastically different path than what the person to the left or right of you looks like. But that's okay, as long as you know within yourself that you're giving your best effort and you're doing whatever you can to make your journey seen out in a way that you want. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Most people don't. It's one I generally save because I say at the time I was like really sad, because I think about it more often now, being like, wow, if I quit, if she hadn't said those words to me, where in the world would I be right now? Because I genuinely do not know. If I stopped doing band, then I don't know what I would have turned to.
That's really interesting, because it's like when I was going up in middle school and stuff, I was also really hard on myself that I wasn't first chair and stuff like that. I remember one day breaking down so bad that my band director actually had to call my mother. And she came to school and grabbed my little butt, took me, home, and she was like, "Okay, you're not first chair. You're third." Mm-hmm. But who, like, it was like an overall thing. Like, all my life I had always stressed myself out about being smart and needing to have good grades, because I have a learning disability and stuff like that. And so growing up with that, I've always felt that I've had to work harder than normal average students. And I always kind of looked down upon myself. And so when I got oboe and did band, I had this magical talent and just came to me naturally. And then, becoming first chair and then immediately going and hitting third chair was just a punch in the stomach for me. And I don't think I ever said I wanted to quit. Mm-hmm. But I remember distinctly just being so hard upon myself, and that's kind of how it led towards the toxic practices that I went to when I came into high school and into college, which eventually led to me losing my love for oboe and having to rebuild that relationship back up. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's actually really nice to hear from, from a different perspective, because a lot of people say, well, you probably never thought about quitting or doing any of that, and it's just been your passion the whole time. But it's great to hear that you had this feeling, and I've totally been there, mm-hmm. where you're surrounded by people who don't care as much as you do, mm-hmm. And I don't think I ever took it that way, but I could see someone taking it that way,
When you said, what you just said, someone would say something like, I'm sorry, what would you say? You had that passion, you never lost it. You literally just said it. I just lost it that just now. Like, because you had that passion and you never lost that part.
I had that passion, then I never lost it.
Yeah, that someone, like people would say that sometimes. Like, it's great that you have that, and you literally just said that.
Listen, I say great things and they go out of my head, and then I don't remember them 5 seconds later.
Either way, sometimes I'll get some similar comments with family, like be like, especially when I'm venting, and they'd be like, yeah, there's some people who do this and that, but you're not like that. You do what you love, blah blah blah. I know it's all in good intentions, but sometimes that saying grates me because I'm just like, you don't know how many times I've threatened to throw my clarinet across the room or to say, excuse my language, damn it all, with most music. And I don't think when you like, from just the conversation in general, it did remind me of how, I don't think I even told you this, Sarah, but as I was getting ready to graduate from high school, I was hearing a lot of people who are really talented in their specialties because I went to the art school here, and seeing those that are like the top of the class in the theater department, hearing the ones that are like getting their lead roles in dance and everywhere else in arts, saying that they're going to Brown University to be a lawyer or do this and this, and be like, yeah, this is fun, but I want to make money. And the whole thing was like money, and here's little old me still want to do music, and I'm just like, am I doing something wrong here? And at times I was kind of balancing am I doing something wrong here? Like, should I just find something that would give me money or a job and then start looking into other professions if I am noticing that there are not many professions I'm skilled in or want to go into? Like, there's really a few. Like, the closest ones will probably be library and info science or, weirdly enough, either pharmacology or mortuary school.
All young composers, all trying to get into the same space, and we're all worried about money, and we're all worried about like living and expenses, like you just mentioned. But I feel like maybe the reason why I'm less worried about it than my parents or other people is because, well, I've always had to work hard. I've never had a break or it be easy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like you guys have an easier experience or anything. It's just like
different.
Yeah, it's a different mindset. My parents never let me use my learning disability as an excuse, and I still don't, parents. So hi, I know you're listening, but yeah, I think just like us as a group or composers as a group, we should all stick together and support each other as the way we can. And I'm hoping that someone out there who is learning to compose will listen to like what you have to say and learn about all the things that you're going through. But yeah, I didn't know you were gonna eventually quit, man. I didn't know at your fancy art school, I call it a fancy art school, but your fancy art school, like people were going and getting other degrees in music.
Yeah, and I started low-key feeling like a one-trick pony, to be honest. It's almost a failure. Like, am I finna just be... Because then again, the conversation was really fully spoken to me, but it was more like the overarching thing, like, if you're going music, you're either orchestral player, teacher, or you're a starving artist. It was those three routes presented. I didn't really get to the nitty-gritty of there's so many things I can do until I got to college.
Yeah, that's also how my parents viewed it, too. Is like, you're a starving artist, you're going to be, music technology exists. There's other paths down that way. If, music education is a really good route too, as you got your undergrad in it. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of people don't know what things are. And when you're kind of trying to decide if you should go to college for it, people are like, well, I don't want to have no money, But if it's something you truly love and you're passionate about it, and you want to make it a full-time career, I highly suggest people going and trying. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with trying, you know. And if it fails, well, you can have your backup plans if you need them. I've got mine.
Sashi,
me too. I was saying me too. That's it.
Yeah, Sashi, I firmly, as I've gotten older, I've gotten more and more engrossed in the field of music in general. There are countless ways to make a degree path such as career in music work. You just have to seek it. You have to seek it out and make it work for you. Because bouncing off of what you said, I think that cookie cutter ideology, such that frame that people look at it from, is such a sentiment of that's what it was in the past. So that's what people would see in the past. They're like, okay, you have a music degree. You're gonna go be either freelance / studio artist, go sit in the back of an orchestra, or go teach, and that's all that you can do because that's all that people see. When in reality, so especially now in the society that we live in, there are 1,000,001 things that you can go and do with a music degree. You just have to. You might sometimes be doing things that are a little bit untraditional, but what's wrong with that? If it makes you feel fulfilled and you have a way of using the skills that your schooling taught you, what's the harm in it? So use it to your advantage.
Yeah, I'm just glad we talked about that's one of the topics that's on this podcast to this day, because I feel like a student that was probably going through whether something situation something similar to what you talked about, like with band with you, or what I went through, especially I know I'm speaking on my point of view now. Like not really not full on peer pressure, saying that everyone was telling me. It was just the overall arcing feeling of seeing everyone going into STEM and me staying in liberal arts, and then also kind of getting pushed into the performance route with my teacher being like, I know you want to compose, but we're trying to get you where you can get a good scholarship, and one thing that you can get a good scholarship is with that instrument, because that was one thing I was really good at, whereas composition, just starting out.
Sure.
So I was put into BA, so I got into the BA track. And then a specific class, computer
music technology one.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
It is computer one or something.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
one.
remember.
After that class, I was like, oh, wait, I can do more. Switched.
Yeah, I mean, music tech, I really love the music tech program at UAB. It's super good. Highly
awesome.
recommend to anyone in Alabama if you're going to music and you don't want to be an educator, and if you don't want to be a performer, probably try music technology out. I love performers, it just wasn't the route for me. As an oboist, it was not the route for me.
Yeah, I found out later. It wasn't my route either.
Just be honest. I love oboe, but I don't think I love it that much to play it. What am I? 7 hours a day, more than 7 hours a day, pretty much. Yeah.
For me, it's the pressure, and I like being in a studio environment rather than being in the spotlight all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, since you write, speaking of writing, I want to know, and since you've also is a composer, how important is music theory in your works? Do you fully lie back onto it? Are you a full on? It's got to be this way. It's more like I understand the language of music, so I know how to break the rules situation type of thing.
It's more akin to the second part of what you just said, and I love having this conversation with especially younger composers / people who are still around that sophomore junior year getting their music degree, because they see they take all of what for the most cases the 4 semesters that you're taught all of the formal music theory classes, so you're fully involved in these are the rules, this is the way things have to be, and you take it as absolute law. And then when you get, especially as a composer, when you get on the other side of that, you step away from that. Most professional composers that I've talked to, they're like, they use theory in a way to sort of confirm the ideas that they have rummaged around in their head, such to make things make sense. Air quotes when I say that. But I guess to answer your question, for me, I'm almost never actively thinking about what is that parallel octave? Is that is that a 3 chord? I'm not sitting there actively being like, this is this. I'm just when I was still at UAB, it was harder to break away from the mold. Such that was some of the breaking down that they had to do, of being like, we need to get you out of the brain of this has to be theoretically correct, such it has to make tonal sense. It's like, no, it doesn't. Does it sound good? Yes, then leave it alone.
Yeah, what I found weird was I was talking to some composers, right? I'm not gonna out them out or whatever.
Sure.
Just some random composers online.
Sure.
And the thing I noticed is they were sending their compositions for feedback, and immediately I was like, oh wow, I really like this part. And then someone will go, well, you have parallel fifths there, and I'm like, come on, can we please just have some? I don't want it to all sound the same. Like, you know,
Like parallel fifths. I'm sorry. I'm a parallel fifth lover. I'm I'm a I'm not a hater. I'm a full on parallel fifths enthusiast. I will use them no matter what
we
till
need a
I'm
sticker.
done.
I love
Yeah.
parallel fizz.
Exactly.
Well, it's like again, you're taught all these rules, and again, they're important, and there's a reason you're taught them in school because you have to understand that. Like, my whole opinion of music theory is it's like for musicians within music theory is like our language that we have to like learn and understand. Because if you don't understand it, then especially as a composer, you can't in my opinion, you can't effectively write. Well, at least as a classical acoustic composer, you have to understand music theory, or else you won't be able to fully effectively write the music that you're going to want to write, such music that you're going to want to cater to whatever audience you seek out. But in the actual creative process that is composition, I don't think it has it can be involved in your process. That's perfectly fine, but I don't think it should be like a overarching. This is the box you have to exist. You have to exist in, because if you do that, you inherently limit yourself to all of the creative possibilities that can happen. Most, especially when band composers I talk to, they actively say, or I've seen they actively have told me like. Like you see where XYZ orchestrational thing that just happened there. Yeah, that's full of like parallel fifths and octaves. Did it sound good? Yes. Well, there's your answer. If it sounds good, it is good. In my firm opinion, I've heard that multiple times, and I stand by it.
Since you're a composer, I wanted to know what kind of genres do you write for? Like, do you want to work in film or video games, or have you decided?
For me, and it's weird. Growing up, obviously I had one of my first like big inspirations was John Williams. Growing up, watching all of those movies and hearing all of his scores, I was like, I want to be like that guy. So that stuff is so cool. I love everything that he does. I think as I've gotten older, such after stepping into the field of composition and seeing like the drastic differences that exist between the film world and the concert music scene, I'm like, oh, okay. These are two very different beasts. I think I'm gonna leave the film stuff to the people who want to do that. That's not. There's nothing like love it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just such a drastically different skill set. Such a drastically different set of skills and like environment you have to work in versus the concert music scene. I feel much more comfortable being in the concert music scene, and I have no like harm in saying that. Love film composers, love film music, just not my thing. Speaking on like specific genres within the concert music realm, I obviously growing up a band kid, love wind band music, such that's really my heart and my passion. Such I always have a special place in my heart for that type of music. I didn't come around to orchestral music until I was much older, especially later on in life, which is typically the opposite. Typically, people get exposed to orchestral music, and that's where they grasp onto their love for classical music. But for me, it was I grew up a band kid, so that was my bread and butter when I was going through schooling. So that's what I primarily know very well. And then now, especially throughout my time in undergrad, especially now more recently with my master's, I'm falling firmly in love with chamber music. So there's some really cool stuff out there that, especially now, that people are doing. But obviously, historically, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm like, wow, that's what Beethoven sounded like. I didn't even know that was possible, and he's just using a chamber orchestra. Oh, okay. So I guess, yeah, to answer your question, like definitely within the concert music scene, just realm existing in that arena. But my unique claim to fame is I want to, and this is a goal that I've been talking about with both of my composition mentors back at LSU, is I want to be able to exist like firmly in between the classical music world and the jazz world, because jazz music is something that has been integral to my upbringing in music, and it's something that's been like connected to my past before I even started playing in band. So I firmly like want that to be a part of my career for as long as I can. So
okay, yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. I think you're the first person on the podcast show that was what did Noah want to do?
I don't remember.
I forgot. Man, I know Emily is like wanted to go more into the video game and film, and so I do too.
Me too.
And you too. Yeah. But I think Noah was everywhere. I think Noah wanted to do everything pretty much. From what I remember, he is doing everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I would Yeah, I mean, I've never really written anything for concert band.
Mhm.
I've wanted to written things for concert band. I've written mostly for orchestric, because
Yeah.
I'm an oboist.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of oboe solos get played in orchestras, and I like the strings and I like the feel of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a concert band. That's what
Yes.
one of my goals is to write one
Yeah.
piece of for concert
Got
band.
to at least try.
Mm-hmm.
This may derail a little bit, but when you mentioned the difference of concert, the sphere of concert versus film,
Mhm.
if you're able, do you mind describing like the differences from what you noticed, like from working? Well, I put air quotes over that.
Sure.
Like your observations.
I'll say I have I have in this to all the people listening. I have no formal experience working in the film industry, so do not come for me. But from what I've seen, so what I've gathered through just like you said, my observations / knowing / watching people interact in both arenas, is obviously with film music you're writing to picture, so you're writing to a set story that's already been painted. You're creating the tonal / soundscape for a picture that already exists, and you're catering it to a director's story / whatever they're trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you take that and pull all of that over to the concert band world, that's just the concert music scene. There's definitely parallels between the two, but it's like at that point, the story the thing you're trying to tell becomes the music. At least I think if I'm describing it correctly, what the score / whatever picture you're trying to paint is just being outright told by the music versus the music being created to tell the story that's already been written out / being told on the screen. And so that's like the biggest distinction that I think I like overarchingly can make. Obviously, there's drastically different technical things. Like most, at least from what I've seen, most film composers that I know of, most of them are writing in DAWs exclusively / extensively. Most of them don't use notation software for what they're doing. Versus on the other end, with concert music, I still know a good bit of people who use DAWs as part of their process in some capacity, but most of the time you're using notation software such as like MuseScore, Finale, Sibelius, Dorico, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you did bring up a point that most film composers, at least from what I've also seen, I don't have any experience on this, so don't come out for me.
Yeah.
But I also have seen them worked mostly in like DAW programs and things like that, which is interesting to me because most of my compositions start off with Sibelius and things like that. But yeah, I get what you're also trying to say. Like when you're a composer for film, you're kind of putting someone else's idea into the music and trying to match the video with it versus having your own idea or like I don't know, feeling and trying to create a composition that gives that feeling or gives that story. I can definitely understand what you're saying. I think it's the same for video games. You're trying to create a scene, a scenario. The only difference is that, well, video game music has to be able to loop and sound pretty loopable and catchy. Yeah. Versus like film, which is like, oh, it can be super pretty and be like this one moment thing that happens. Like Harry Potter soundtracks are great. Everyone loves them.
Sorry to interrupt. Can some also, I've noticed, maybe from the games I've played, it's like there's, from the music I've listened to from those games, it's like they straddle that line between film and video game score. Because it's like they can be they're very pretty, but also very detailed and elaborate. You can literally snatch them out and it can sound like a movie score by itself, and then putting it back in the music in the video game, it still fits.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, there's a lot of at least from what I can tell from the video game industry is they're doing more. If you're like a really good composer, you can basically snatch out a soundtrack and be like, this is something you can listen to every day. Yeah. And sometimes you can also get that effect of like, I don't know, one of the greatest examples I can ever give is Ora and the Blind Forest. It's a great video game and their music soundtrack slaps. It's so good. Listen to it. But it gives you that story without having the game there. Yeah. But it's not like film. It's it's different for me. I don't know, but I can see like what you're saying.
It's mainly it's like one of the games that popped in my head that shadows that line, in my opinion, don't come for me, please.
Sure.
Please do not come for me, is Genshin Impact. I have not played that game in a long while because I deleted it for many reasons. Not against it, just space errors.
Yeah.
But one of the things I still go back to, even if I don't play it, is the music soundtracks for the different worlds. And even then, the music is so detailed. That's one thing that I've noticed, like from there's like a lot of feedback from players about things that they could change about it, a lot of critiques and discourse about it. One thing that the fandom does not discourse about it is the music. It's like a whole unanimous decision that the music slaps. Yeah. It's like they're like, oh yeah, about the music, it slaps. Moving on. And that's literally the whole thing. And then noticing how it's from a video game, but at the same time, if I did not notice it was from a video game, I would think it was from a movie or somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why I was like, I know some soundtracks can straddle that fence between being loopable but also film score.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, my soapbox over.
To kind of, and this is completely tangential. You can cut off with what I was about to say, but like kind of just backing up and like looking at the whole thing from an overarching spear. What we're after as composers, such whether it be for film, such video game, or for the stage, such concert music, is you're just after the game of storytelling. That's all you're doing, and it's how you choose to the medium in which you choose to tell that story. Such what you're supporting by doing that can look different between looks different between all three different fields. But it's still at the end of the day, it's just you're still just doing storytelling. That's a very large oversimplification, but at least in my firm belief, a big part of why I became a composer, such why I fell in love with the career field is the art of storytelling. Such I feel like as composers we have the challenge, but the great benefit of we can choose to paint a picture however we want to with the music that we choose to put on the page, and whether that be for film, video games, concert music, jazz orchestral, whatever have you. As a composer, you have that vehicle, such that control, that power within you to paint it however you so choose, and that like we can all three of us have be given the same prompt, and the music we write was going to be drastically different between all three of us. Mm-hmm. And I find that amazing, such amazing and inspiring, and it's why I fell in love with the career field, and still even through the trials and tribulations / the hard times that especially growing up as a young and rising composer, it's why I keep coming back every day because of that awe-inspiring fact of we're all just out here trying to tell stories, trying to tell stories and trying to make music the best way we can.
As a composer, we all deal with this problem. Yep. But I want to know, how do you deal with your creative blocks, like burnout, things like that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So that's all too relevant, especially more recently with me. When for me, it's kind of changed as I've gotten older, such as I've had differing and varying experiences. I used to, when I was just starting out, I would just I would spend a lot of time just trying to put stuff down and then be like, no, I hate it, delete it. Try again. I still hate this. Delete it. Then I just keep doing that loop it over and over and over again. And it's like, hey, eventually I think I just realized, I was like, hey, this isn't productive. Or I think I had a professor told me like, hey, that's not productive. You probably should just stop. So I stop, take a break, and do something else. And that's been like my biggest takeaway from the mentor who told me that, which I don't think was Dr. Price, but it was either Dr. Price or Dr. Phillips who told me that. I'm like, hey, it's okay to take a break, to step away from it for a little bit. So I have your time that you're doing composition, and like make that a rigid set time, and then have times where you're fully just stepping away from it and doing something else. Anything else, but do not think about the writing process that is music / the mental game that is required to put notes down on the page. Just do something else that you enjoy. Go on a walk, go read a book, go watch a movie, play video games. Do anything else that you find that brings you joy. Stop thinking about music. So stop thinking about writing. So I've taken that now to heart, and that I now have like very set things that I do whenever I can feel myself approaching getting to a point of like, this is starting. I've either started wandering from the original intention of what I was trying to tell with whatever I was writing at the time, or I'll like reach a point to where I'm like, okay, I'm getting like mentally just tired, so I can feel the fatigue setting in. It's like, okay, I'm gonna put this down, so I step away and go do anything else. So that's been kind of, I think, the biggest thing of just being like, it's okay to do other things. Such it's very valid and normal to go, hey, I'm gonna go on a walk for a little bit and just stop thinking about this for like 15-30 minutes and just do anything else. Another thing, how I deal with the more, because as I said, I guess that's more literal of how I deal with the side of it. The more mental side of it and how I balance and deal with that has to deal with just kind of accepting that it's a normal part of the art making process. It's like if you're pouring all of your emotions and something into something, we're all human. There's going to reach a point to where you've given all that you can at that given moment for that time. So it's perfectly fine. But okay, I've said all I need to say at this time. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna put this away. I'm gonna walk away. And you can walk away. So sometimes I'll have like days or weeks that I'll have to be like, I've exhausted all of my absolute energy on this piece. I'm not going to look at this for a few days, such maybe a week or two. And I'm just going to leave it alone because I know I have to. And just come back to it later. And I felt most of the time that, or almost always whenever I come back to the piece, I feel like a sense of either sometimes excitement because it's like, hey, I get to look at this again, and more often than not, I feel like refreshed of like, hey, I get to look at this again. And I have more fresh ideas, so I have a fresh perspective on what I want the piece to be now. Which sometimes that's good because sometimes you're like, hey, suddenly all of these ideas I was trying to convey and what I want to build off of that makes sense. Sometimes you come back and you're like, okay, actually, I hate half of this, but let's fix it now, which is still fine because now you have a fresh perspective and a fresh brain on it. So. I think that overarchingly answered the question that you were getting at, but yeah.
What is the most experimental thing that you've tried in your music?
Okay, when you say experimental, what are you getting after?
Like new techniques, something that you don't really do often, that kind of thing.
For instance, what was it? Was it a kazoo on a trombone that you sent me, or did I send you?
I think you sent that to me.
Sorry, there's a trombone player who put a toilet plunger. You know, that's kind of normal for trombones. Yeah. But then he put a kazoo at the end of the trombone plunger and came out like with a weird kazoo sound. So like, you got any kind of weird techniques that you use that's not really conventional, or
something really weird? Like I saw a video of people of only two guys who play violin. And they did Pachelbel's Canon in D with rubber chickens.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
We could probably send some of these videos to you if you want.
Yeah.
We could, I like weird things.
Hey, that's okay.
Do.
Nothing really comes to, I'm definitely of the brand that I primarily exist in a very tonal landscape, such I don't hate pushing the limits, but it definitely it does not come natural for me to push the experimental limits that modern classical music tends to be heading in the direction of doing sometimes. I guess, which is that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, let me just say that outright. The most experimental technique that I've used. I'm trying to think if there's any like crazy thing that I've done, and nothing's coming to mind. I guess. And the wind band piece that I briefly mentioned earlier, an American Outcry, which is to briefly talk about the history of that piece. It's about the issue of gun violence in America and how we have an unrelenting issue to just actually address the actual problem. So we're just kind of leaving it alone and placing school age / younger adults / children in the crosshairs quite literally because they are the primary victims of this unfortunate tragedy that just happens over and over again. But at the end of that piece, the main melody comes back and just some of the wind instruments. I think off the top of my head, it's the soprano saxophone, the clarinet, and the oboe, and I think that's it. But the rest of the band is humming, and it gets to a point to where they were just humming. I think I have them like on an E flat major chord, and it drops down to whatever the resolution point is of the piece, and then it cuts out, and then it's just those three instruments playing the last note of the piece. And I guess for me, what I was going after when because I had no idea how that was going to sound. I've seen plenty of contraband composers do that. Like I know Frank Skelly's famous for doing it a bunch. But I had never experimented with that technique before, so I was like, I wonder how this is going to sound live, and it played out better than I could have imagined. Such the effect really actually is very. I don't want to. The word that comes to mind is translucent, but I don't know if that's necessarily the word that I want. It's like very. You gave off the right vibe that I was looking for the end of the piece, because I want the end of the piece. I want it to be like very almost reflective of like we're still. It's like very like almost somber in nature of like all this chaos that just happened over the past 6 to 7 minutes is finally coming to an end. But also, on the other hand, we still have an issue to address, because this is still happening, and still ongoing. And until we do something about this issue, it will just continue to go on and press on. I think that's the most like air quotes experimental that I've done, which is crazy to say, because both of the professors that I've studied with are known for doing quite experimental stuff, especially Dr. Price.
Well, I mean,
off the top of my head, I think that's as far as I've chosen to stretch. I can definitely see that changing within the next year, because coming into the second year of my master's, I know my the professor I'm going to be studying under, she's much more contemporary than I am, and she's probably going to try and push me in that regard, which I need it, and I think it's important to at least understand how that side of the contemporary music genre works, and how to write for it properly. So.
Okay, all right. What's a piece you've made that means the most to you, and why?
It's kind of bounced between two. One of them being the one I just mentioned, the wind band piece in American Outcry, because it was the first band piece that I had premiered and like played at a national conference. That I feel like forever that piece alone will sit with me because of that reason, but also the messaging behind that piece that I just discussed with being connected to gun violence. Although I'm thankfully have never been a victim of that, I feel like, especially all three of us growing up, we've seen the news stories. So we've seen how it's impacted us as young adults, us teenagers, and having to experience all of the headlines, being like, wow, I hope that's not us one day. So I hope that tragedy never finds its way here. But a piece that like really forever I think has a special place in my heart is the duet that I wrote for two of my best friends, Gavin Bell and Caroline East, both UAB alums also. They approached me, I think spring of 2023, and said, hey, because they were both about to enter their senior year, and they're like, hey, we're both going to do senior recitals. You should write us a piece that we can play on both our senior recitals. And I was like, you know what? I'm all for it. Let's go. That piece turned into Shelter Tree, which is my duet for marimba and clarinet. It has not been played yet outside of the three performances I got at UAB, but it means a lot to me, and not just the fact that it was like one of my first formal commissions, but it's the messaging behind the piece, and that it's connected to two of my best friends who have a firm impact on my time at UAB and my growth as not only an artist, but as a person, and who I just am thankful to call dear friends, and dear and hopefully lifelong friends. But yeah, I guess if I had to rank the two, that one will be on top for mainly that reason, that it has the meaning of being connected to those two people, because I love them both dearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're writing, how do you know when your piece is like done?
It kind of I feel like it changes project to project. In some cases, and I guess both of you, if you haven't experienced this, you will. There will be like the person who asks you to write the piece will tell you as like, hey, we have this time frame for the music to be played in, so don't jump over this, please. And then that will kind of adjust your internal pacing clock of like, okay, I have this much music I can write, so I have this much space to play with. For me, how I know that a piece is like set in stone done, it's for the most part been a pretty intrinsic experience of this feels right. So I've said all that I need to say before then. Let it be done. So I don't potentially stretch, just add anything, because for me, how I handle my writing process. If I start once I start an idea, so I start a different. And it could be thematic, melodic, whatever have you. Once I start the idea, if I don't have a like firm cap ending on it, I'm gonna have to take more time to stretch it out and make it make sense to my brain. And in some cases, that can be 15 seconds, or that can be another 3 minutes. And in some cases, you don't have more 3 minutes to write or to work with. So sometimes you have to just know, be like, okay, now we're gonna stop it into here. So I've said all I need to say, and just let it be done.
I've seen your posts all the time. You're on my Instagram all the time. I think you're great. I love seeing all of them and seeing what you're up to do.
Yeah.
But I've seen your post about 75 hard for composers. And I want to know, like, can you explain what that is and why you started it? How has the experience impacted you the way you compose daily? And has it shifted your mindset or pushed you creatively in the ways you didn't expect?
Yeah. So,
because aren't you on day like 58?
Yes, as it was. I think this is day 61, if my math is correct. So that should be correct. Yeah. This challenge, I should say, it's primarily inspired by. I'm going to pull up her name because I'm not going to butcher it because I'm really mad if I do.
Because I know about 75 hard, which is a mental tough challenge.
Yeah.
But then when you opened my eyes to the composer challenge, I was like, oh. Well, I failed 75 hard. Maybe I could try 75 hard composer, the composer challenge, which I was going to do after the podcast because I've been pretty busy. But sure, I think it's an interesting thing.
Yeah,
I'm a little lost on both ends.
Oh yeah, he's going to explain it.
Sure.
Not only that, 75 hard, just in general.
Okay, so 75 hard is a mental tough challenge where for 75 days you, give me if this is wrong, you read a book. 10 pages. Read a 10-page book. You work out for 2 times a day.
And one of them has to be outside.
You have to go on a diet. This is 75 hard. This is not the composer's challenge.
Yeah.
But you go on a diet of some type or something, and you do that for 75 days straight with no break.
And if you miss a day, you have to start over.
There is something called 75 soft, which has different rules. I don't know them. But 75 Hard's Composer's Challenge, I don't really know much about.
Yeah.
So could you explain that to us?
Sure, yeah. It's my version of this is deeply such holistically inspired by flautist Jill Durer. She's at jill.flutes on Instagram. If you want to follow her, I think she's awesome, so you should. She started at the top of this year a challenge called Musicians 75 Hard, which is a direct derivative of the normal 75 Hard challenge, except it's geared around the lives that we have as musicians / whatever art form and craft that you have as a musician. So seeing that she did it and she's gotten the flute community all jazzed up and wrestled about it. So she has a bunch of other flutists doing it, and though she just wrapped up her portion of it, I think last week, if I'm remembering correctly. But I saw her taking this on, and I was like, that would be a very cool thing to, I think, kind of morph into a thing that composers can do. So I put my own little spin on it, because when I started my master's degree, and I guess this question will kind of morph into me talking about my more formal background. I don't, obviously, we've mentioned a few times, my undergrad is in music education. So I don't have an undergrad degree in composition. So my formal education studying with composition exists through my lessons with Dr. Price, or Dr. William Price, that's what we all know. And then the outside studying system internship that I have from my, I guess, 3 other teachers, which were Kevin Day, not Marie Douglas, and she's a big mentor of mine. Steve Danu, and then Kincaid Rapp. those are like the few people who I got either mentorship or studied with privately for some period of time during the latter half of my undergrad. But that's like the extent of my private composition study. I didn't, the normal path that most people take is you study it in some kind of degree program, you get a degree in it, and then you go on to get your master's and or doctorate if you so choose. I was coming at it from the music education background, so when I started my master's, I was like, okay, I need to, and now that I've been given the time and the free space to say, hey, you're in school for composition, you should be composing. So this is the thing you want to focus on, so do it. So I took the opportunity to be like, okay, I need to make myself just for an amount of time, because I feel like one of the basic things that you get taught when you first become a music major in undergrad is that you need to start developing a habit of you have to practice every single day. For some moderately significant period of time, every day it should be spent practicing. We don't have to. We can talk about. I have firm opinions on the extremes of that and how that should be balanced. But that's a topic for a later date, or just a different date. But I knew, getting into my master's, I need to find some way to like get that regimented skill within my within my creative practice, because I hadn't had much time given my music at undergrad, and especially on the latter half I was crazy busy, so I was borderline drowning in some instances, and then I decided to add on, I'm going to do composition entirely separate from all of my other degree requirements being a music education student, which is already a crazy amount, as I'm sure your audience will be aware. So doing that, I was like, okay, I'm surviving, but I know I need more formal time just spent doing the thing over and over again. So that inspired me, or seeing her post about that challenge, I was like, okay, let me take this on, so I'll see if I can kind of meld this into my own thing. And then that obviously melded into what you said, the Composer 75 Hard Challenge, which I have my rules still written in here, and what I've basically been following for the past now 62 days is the rules I set for myself are here. They are. It's so the way it's broken down, and this is all mostly based off of what Jill has set up for the Musician 75 Hard Challenge. It is, you do 6 days on, 1 day off. So from whatever day you start of the week, you do 6 days of all of the requirements, and then that one off day, you just get a quote unquote rest day. You can work if you want to, but you don't have to. So the only requirements is that you have to do some type of journaling, such reflect on what you did that day, such how the day made you feel, and that's it. But the normal rules and components that are overarching for the 6 on days are, I have 2 like air quotes writing sessions per day at minimum. So yeah, one has to be dedicated to sketching out ideas, such writing ideas that might be used for a section of a composition, or just something. It has to be basically that's rooted in, I need to do something tangible at the piano, such that's just orally getting stuff out of my brain onto paper. The other, and then the second session can be whatever. So every other foreboding session can be whatever. It can be spent entirely at the computer writing stuff indirectly into Sibelius, just doing whatever. And then generally, I have having her, the time range they need to be is between like 30 to 90 minutes. For me, I've experienced that like after 90 minutes in one sitting, that's like the maximum my brain can handle. It's like after that's like, okay, stop, take a break for at least 5 to 15 minutes, do something else, and then come back if you want to. But like after 90 minutes, it's like, okay, I'm done. So brain starting to yell at you, do something else for a second. The next rule such component is so basing it off of, or talking about the connection between the original 75 hard challenge. It's 10 pages of a book. For me, I just said has to be 30 minutes of reading. That can be, I say it has to be a nonfiction book. Doesn't have to, but it doesn't have to be music related at all. It can be like anything that I feel is interesting. So I said like autobiographies, music history books, music psychology books, autobiographies of like composers, and like topics within like intermediate topics within composition, like orchestration, or like period specific orchestration, and stuff like that. Or yeah, I say for reading, that's really the only overarching rule, is that it has to be nonfiction. It has to be like something that I can tangibly just set for a period of time. I'm less concerned about the page amount and just the fact that I just want to like read every single day and get that habit reestablished in my daily practice. And then another component is the 30 minutes of active listening. This one is I take as really flexible. Is that the only thing that I take away from it is I want to get away from the classical trumpet repertoire, because I'm obviously very experienced and know all of that through my studies with music ed. So I was like, let's put that away. So let's use this opportunity to catch up on all of the air quotes standard rep, especially from composers that I feel like most composers know very well, that I feel like I did not coming into this know very well. So I was like, I'm gonna use this opportunity to catch up on all stuff that I know I need to listen to. So that's when I've been bugging my professor all semester, be like, send me stuff to listen to. So tell me stuff I should know. And he's like, okay, here you go. And I said, often enough, he'll send me stuff, and then we'll talk about it. And the next lesson as a good like buffer to start. That's something that I directly stole from Dr. Price. I'm not sure if he directly made you do this, but yeah. Okay, good. So yeah, at the start of every lesson, he'd be like, all right, what'd you listen to? And then we would talk about XYZ thing. Or sometimes I come in and be like, what'd you listen to? I was like, all right, now listen to this. And then we'll listen to something for the first 5 to 10 minutes, which is I feel is always, it's nice and beneficial, because as a composer, you should be listening to other masterworks or just other people's stuff to get a gauge for like what all is possible, such what all is out there, and what's normal, what's more experimental, what's happening in the field, and what's already happened, where you can get inspiration from for your own works. And then there's that, and then one active wellness session per day is the other parameter. This can be indoor or outdoor. This one is the most drastically different from the direct 75 hard challenge. I don't see, at least for musicians, we obviously live a drastically different style of life than most I say typical people who just have like a regular 9 to 5 lifestyle. Our lifestyle is obviously more flexible and more malleable in the way of, there's days where we might be doing a lot of running around doing XYZ different thing related to our career path, and some days that we're not doing anything like that at all. So taking with that, I said, okay, the active wellness session can be meditation, it can be a walk, it can be going to the gym, but any stuff like that, anything of that realm. I've used this challenge really to get back into. I was more into meditation in the early part of my undergrad, and then I kind of stepped away from it. So I was meditation and going to the gym, and I've used this challenge as an excuse to get back into doing those two things, especially the meditation. I found that really helpful, and just doing that most of the time before is a way to either start my day or to end my day, because I feel like I'm the type of person I am. I get caught in a trap of I just want to sit in my bed and do absolutely nothing for as long as I possibly can, and then that ends up with me feeling bad about having stalled for an X amount of period of time. So I feel like having this concrete set thing that I can either start or end my day with has been very grounding of like, okay, I know I'm going to do this thing at this certain time. So after that, I'm typically more energized, just motivated to be like, all right, get going to do the thing, or stop doing what you're doing, go to bed. So your day's over. Put phone down. be done. And then the last thing that I do at the end of every day is the required reflection, which is basically just I use the journal app in my phone, and I just write down some notes about what I did that day, what was the pros, or what was the good, what was the bad, what are some things that I've been feeling lately, such how have I been handling things. It's in some cases turned into me venting about school, because there's some days that are drastically crazier than others. So some days where I'm like, that was some crazy shit, I need to talk about that. So I need to debrief that within myself. So it's been a good way to just get all my feelings about the day out onto paper. If you want to see the original version, you can check out Jill's Instagram. Again, that's at jill.flutes. She just finished up finished up the challenge last week, and I think is either in the process of posting her recap, but she did a great job at documenting her experience throughout the challenge. So yeah.
Wow. Thanks for tuning in and exploring music with us.
And a huge thank you to our guests for letting us into their creative world.
Keep listening, keep creating, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye.
See y'all.